Hello, hello, my hey, I got something to say, people. Ladies, I love you. And the women, you are just the bomb. I know somebody said to me, can you call us women? Can you call us lady? Can you call us gals? And I said, how about I call you all of them? Whatever you relate to. For me, you can call me girl. I like being called sassy girl. Anna's in the house. How are you, Anna?
I'm well. Hi, Sandy.
So what do you like to be referred to? I'll tell you what's really funny. I used to really hate when people called me ma'am, but I'm okay with it. I don't like ma'am, but gal, girl, woman, do you care? Do you have a thing?
I don't think I really care, but I do think the few times I've ever been called ma'am, where you're like, yes, ma'am, I'll get that for you. I'm like taken aback. Like, are you talking to someone behind me? What are you talking about? So
Yeah.
that
And I
one,
realize it's a polite thing. So now I'm like, oh,
right, exactly. I'm like, all right, it's okay. But yeah, it's not like the 1800s where they used it all the time.
it's true. Oh, I forgot. And there are men that we love that support us around the world too. So shout
Okay.
out to you. Okay. I think Ann and I were talking and it was over the summer. We were yip yapping because she's a pal of mine, and we finally got it on in January. And you're like, okay, it'll be the new year. That's great. But this is perfect timing, I think.
I agree.
Yeah.
Exactly.
So let's get to it because we got a lot to get in 30 minutes. Do you have a nickname? Somebody asked me that. By the way, Anna and Elf, they were like, that's so easy to pronounce. Does she have a nickname?
I have been called Anna Banana or Anna's Bananas or Bananas before. That's about it. And then my uncle, he will call me Annabelle, but only my uncle will call me that.
I like all of those. I think I like your uncles, but I'll call you Anna. Anna Nelson is a Gallup, and I want to make sure they understand what it is. ICF certified strength coach who works with high achievers to unlock and unleash their hidden strengths. This is a subject very near and dear to me. I love your career path. She's been a marketer, a saleswoman, a project manager, and an MBA student, and has owned multiple businesses, including, I did not know this, a boutique handmade undergarment service. I have so many questions about that, but we'll hold on. And I met her at Heroic Public Speaking course, and that's a whole nother thing. But one day she realized a hard truth. If you don't build your career, business, and life around your authentic natural strengths, true that, there will always be a ceiling on your success and your happiness. And you ask what Anna's natural strength is? It's helping other people find theirs so they can confidently move forward in any area of their life. I mean, I think this is perfect for the new year. I really do. You know, come on, it's January. Whether you set goals, intentions, benchmarks, a lot of people think about what they want to do in January. I mean,
Mhm.
I know. I don't know about you. Do you reflect on your past year and then think about,
Oh yeah.
been making a better decision at that, but that was all me. All right, maybe this. I don't know. What do you do?
Oh yeah. I start thinking about my New Year's goals like end of October, early November. And then I don't commit to anything until like January, but it's kind of a process because I know if I'm going to commit to something, I will commit to it and I will make it happen. So I really want to percolate it on for a while. So, yeah.
Some other guy on yesterday, and he said the same thing. Like he starts in October, thinking about what's going to go on. I start a week before, but
But I think that's the difference maybe between some people where, right away I was driving yesterday and on the radio someone had said, "Well, this is the week where most people give up on their New Year's resolutions." And I'm like, "Well, yeah,
ah,
if you only worked 5 minutes on your New Year's resolution, I could see why, of course. But maybe if you took time to ask yourself, what is it that I want different in my life? Why do I want that different in my life? Did I try it earlier this year, but it didn't work out? Are there things I should change and then fix it and tweak it? Do I want to drop that as a goal?" Like there are so many questions you need to ask yourself that I think people don't take the time to sit and ponder.
no, I agree. I agree. And I do spend time on that. You know what? I'm going to take that back. I spend on time on that every month. I reflect
Mm,
every month. What went well, what decisions.
yeah.
That was all me. I won't make that again, you know?
Yeah.
All right. So we're going to dive into your positive statement that you want to share with women and men that support us around the world. Change your life and your potential by changing your perspective. So when I thought of that, oh, where'd they go? My cat probably took them. I have five. Well, I have four cats now, four cats and a dog. They come up on my desk and they run off with things. But anyhow, I think of putting like a pair of glasses on and looking through
Mhm.
different lenses. That works for me because I'm very visual.
Mhm.
So how do you go about changing your perspective? I got, by the way, I sent out to my peeps all your stuff, and they really were curious about that. They say, I
Mhm.
hear all the time, change your perspective, change your perspective. And I had some very sarcastic answers, but they're like, how? How do we change our perspective?
I think so. I, like you already said in my little bio, I'm a certified coach, right? And literally that's that's what I'm wired to do. I one-on-one conversations is my love, and I love encouraging people to kind of go after their dreams or their goals, or to think about themselves differently so that they are willing to go after their dreams and their goals. And so that requires helping them change their perspective. And then if you told me, and I really want to run a marathon this year, but I'm not really sure, I've never really done it before, then it's like, okay, well, what made you think about doing the marathon? Do you like running? Have you ever run? What are you the most scared about doing? It's kind of like going back to that, what kind of goals do you want for yourself in the new year? It is asking yourself these questions because it helps you shift your perspective from, I want to do this thing, but I'm scared that I can't, so I'm not going to do anything about it. But if you change your perspective and you say, I really want to run a marathon, and this is from my own personal experience. So I really wanted to run a marathon one years and years ago. I've only done one. I was 22 at the time. But in my head, I thought only people who are tall, blonde, and blue-eyed can run marathons. And that's because my one of my very good friends, she is tall, blonde, and blue-eyed, and she's a runner, and she always ran. But I am not tall, blonde, and blue-eyed. I'm short
Oh
and
my,
not and whatever. And I had never run before. I'd never run before, but I was like, I really want to run a marathon. And so I had to start. So then one day I was talking to a friend and she was like, oh, my husband signed up for the marathon. And I was like, well, if he can do it, I can do it. So in a way, I changed my perspective. But then even while doing the marathon, training for the marathon, I had someone, he was actually my boss in one of my very first jobs. He was into running, and he agreed to be my coach. But the higher up in the mileage that I got, where I was now like becoming this thing I had never become, I had to work really hard at, like, it's okay that I can run 16 miles. I've never run 16 miles. Like, I was becoming something I had never been before. And so it's like I had to continually change my perspective because I was becoming someone new and different that I'd never experienced before. So
hey,
I don't think we think about that. Or like if you have a job that you want to go after, if you've never done it before, you're going to have to think of yourself differently and believe that you are capable and qualified to go after it. And then you just have to learn how to sell yourself into that role. But you can't really move forward and do something you've never done before if you do not change your perspective. And it doesn't have to be like, I am somebody, I'm special. And now you're going to go run a marathon. It's way deeper and more nuanced than that.
I love you. Okay, so I have a lot to unpack there, and I always know this about myself, especially when I love someone. I think, oh my God, this is like a 5 hour conversation. I'm squeezing too much in. But okay, so you did run the marathon, right?
Mhm. Yep, I ran it. I can say I'm a marathon runner. I will never do it again, but I did it.
And I never thought about that for working out. But I like the way you said, now that I'm running 16 miles, I had to change my perspective. Like I'm someone that's running 16 miles. Like I and you're stepping into that. So I don't know who was saying this, but one of my favorite peeps was saying that you won't move forward when you're referencing just what you were in the
Mm.
past.
And
That,
that's really hard. Super hard.
but I guess the only thing, the way to do that is by like I never thought how stories really impact you, even subconsciously. Like you had to be blonde, blue-eyed, and tall. Like that to me is ridiculous, but there's so many things like that. And you were aware of it, but other people aren't even
Mhm.
aware of it, and it holds them back. So how do you even get aware of it if you're not aware of it? Do you know what I mean? Like it seems really tricky. Like don't be, oh, it's Dr. Joe Dispenza. You want your future self, you can't reflect upon what your past did or you won't move forward. And yet it's so deep and ingrained in us. How do you do that?
I think you have to be really honest with yourself, and I think you have to be willing to ask yourself questions, even if it's like a set of standard questions like okay, this year I want to run a marathon. Or actually so last year, so in the fall of 2023, I signed up for a 2.1 mile open water swim in Lake Superior. I had never swum that far in my whole life, and it was open water, and I was like, okay, this is going to be my like workout goal of the year. And
Right?
I before I signed up for it, I spent at least a month thinking about the ramifications of what it would mean if I signed up. I've never done it before. I don't have a swim coach. Where am I going to swim? Where's the race going to be? Will I have transportation? How much does it cost? How will I train for the open water things? And so I'm like asking myself these different questions, but then also like, why do I want to do this? Why? And so again, asking yourself
Just
questions.
why? No, no, I need to know why.
So at that time, I had to go up to my in-laws' place every weekend in the summer, and I was bored out of my mind, and you can only read so many books like in the porch chair. And so in my head I was like, all right, well, we're on a very beautiful lake. I guess I could go swimming on the weekends. And so that's why I started to think about the idea.
I love it. Okay, okay. Now I'm getting it. Now I'm getting it. Right. Okay.
And then I asked one of my best friends, like, hey, do you want to do this with me? And so we signed up together. And then in the middle of training, she got injured. So she never even did it. And I had to decide, are you going to still keep doing this, even though your friend can't do it? And I was like, all right, I'm going to do this. This is what I want. Let's keep going. Like, really? It's so
Just keep swimming. Just keep swimming.
yeah. And I think, like, let's pretend it's something a little not athletic. And I am not an athlete, right? Like, I learned as an adult how to swim. So this is not like a former collegiate athlete who signed up for a race. This is me being like, I've never done this in my life. And I'm excited by big, scary goals. So I did it. But like, if someone wants to, I don't know. Go try for a different job, let's say, but you're holding yourself back because it's easy to be like, well, I already get paid a decent salary. I already like the people I work with. I kind of like my cubicle and the decorations I've already put up in it. I already know the commute. Like you can start talking yourself out of it, but then there are things where you're like, I really don't want to do this. I think I'm capable of doing more. And so I think it's just like, okay, what's holding me back? What am I most scared of? All right, losing the people I currently work with. Yeah, that is a loss. When you transition from one thing to another, there are going to be losses. So you have to kind of accept it. What could happen if I get a new job? Oh, I could get $20,000 more. Okay, that's worth it because then I could go to Europe once a year if I wanted. Like so it's kind of like a alternate version of a pros and cons list, but you're kind of asking yourself like, what am I scared of? And like as a coach, I will help people figure out like, okay, this is how you're wired, and this is why you're thinking about this particular move in the way that you are. So right now, what you're really good at in your job is actually holding you back in terms of moving forward in your career. Because sometimes people are strategic thinkers. So they're
Mm.
really good at being strategic in their job because that they're supposed to look at the numbers. What are the numbers telling us? Blah blah blah. But then they'll overanalyze in their personal life. Should I get that job? Should I not apply for that job? What should I do? And then they start doing this thing and they'll start talking themselves out of it. And it's like you can't actually do that. You need to like stop it and move forward.
Anna, I think it takes a village, meaning, I mean, some of the stuff you can do on your own, but
Oh yeah.
most of it you need peeps. Like you and I were talking before the show. I mean, people that know you, people that understand you, people that are not, they don't have skin in the game, like your family and your close friends.
Yeah.
That's why I
Yes.
love coaches and therapists because, you know, they're not here in your home. There's nothing to gain or lose. Like they want the best for you and they can see things I almost, I'm going to ask you this. For me, I don't know a coach that doesn't have a coach or a mentor
Mm.
or somebody that they reach out to because that's what makes them really great.
Oh yeah. I mean, as a coach, if it's we're as a coach, you can only take people as far as you're willing to go yourself. I could not tell
Ooh.
you like, hey, Joy or Sandy, I don't know in my head.
I like Joy. You can call me Joy.
I couldn't say to you, Sandy, you can totally do a marathon. Absolutely. And if you're like, well, have you ever done a big, scary athletic thing? Um, nope. I actually am like 500 pounds and I just eat potato chips all day long. Like that, I'm not a qualified person to be like, you know what, it's going to be hard, but you can totally do it. And here's why I've done it. Not every coach has to do exactly the same thing, but they have to have experience facing their own selves and their own anxieties and worries and fears in order to
I
help
hope
someone
so.
else face theirs. Exactly.
Yeah, props. Okay. So we went through the first thing was like, be honest with yourself about what you want. And I want to just dive in a little deeper to that because I feel as if sometimes, even to ourselves, we don't admit it because then what if it doesn't happen?
Mhm. Yeah,
I don't know if
absolutely.
I mean, if I write it down,
Absolutely.
ooh, now what? Ooh, even if I don't say anything to anyone else. Now I said I want it. Now I don't have it. Well, that's sad, right?
Yeah, absolutely.
So what do you do about that?
I think one question I will ask myself is what's the alternative? So I
Hmm.
remember this is years and years ago when I was like, okay, I was one of the last people in my friend group to get married. I got married in first time I got married was in my later 30s. And I remember talking to my therapist, and he would be like, it sounds like you really want to be in a relationship. And I was like, well, I don't really know, and this and that. And he would be like, no, it really sounds like you do. Like how, and it was all about getting me to be honest with myself about the fact that I really wanted to be in a relationship with someone. And therefore, if I wanted that, then I actually had to start putting myself out there. And that meant getting on match.com at that time and creating a profile and then going out on these dates. And then, of course, you're going on these dates that you're like, oh my word, are there any winners out here? Like, I'm getting all the losers. And so I think you can get really disappointed when you start putting yourself out there and things aren't turning out the way you want. It's easy to be like, this is horrible. But then it's like, then what's the alternative? I
Yeah,
can get off these apps immediately if I don't, if I want. But I don't want that. I still want to put myself out there. I want to be with someone. Okay, then maybe you pivot. Maybe you try a different app. Maybe you try a matchmaking service. Like you've kind of figure out other alternative ways to see about getting what you want. But I also think you can't let the thing that you don't have but that you want be the thing that is going to define you. Like I think that's also a difference too. Like you
yeah,
cannot let that be the be all like I'll be somebody once I have this person. You're already somebody even without that person.
right. Which is something you want. Yeah, and I see the difference. I love that. Okay, so I know we don't have that much time, but I got so many questions on this. So let's say, okay, you want to be honest with yourself about what you want. How do they start the process? Should they reach out to someone? Do they start writing down things? I had one young lady that says, oh God, I'm going to call her Sally though. Dear Sandy, I know you're talking to Anna today. I think I've been lying to myself for 30 some years about what I
Hmm.
want.
Hmm.
Fit the mold of what my family told me I should be, which seems on surface to be amazing. But when I wake up in the middle of the night, sorry, I'm sorry, Selma. When I wake up in the middle of the night and I have to go to the bathroom, I have these bubbles. Oh my, I love this woman that pop into my head and go, no, this is not the life I want. But it's been
Mm,
so many years. Please help.
mm.
I love the way she's so thorough. Like I can live the lie, but when I wake up in the middle of the night and I have to go to the bathroom, Sally Bell.
I think I think you're still alive, you can still change things up, and I think that's one of the hardest things, right? Like, families are such a gift and a blessing, and they're also a curse sometimes because, and depending on your personality or the circumstances that you grew up in, and, like, so many extenuating circumstances, it is hard to kinda get out from under certain things, like, my mom thought I should go to college to be a computer science engineer because at the time computers were big and I would always have a job because computers are here to stay. And I'm like, I don't care anything about computers. I just want to talk to my friends. And so it's like, okay, so I escaped computer science engineering, but um I think the thing is we do know what we want, and it can be easy to be like, "Well, my family want." You do know what you want. It's way buried deep down inside, and so maybe take a little piece of paper, or maybe the easiest thing sometimes it's like, what are the things that you're most happy about in your life? And that sometimes is the easiest way. Start with what you don't like that's going on in your life, and you see that, and then it's like, "Well, what do I really want?" Maybe it becomes a little more obvious. And maybe you can't make a huge change right away because you have systems already in place. But I think even if it's as simple as like, you know what? I really do like going to this particular coffee shop and I love drinking this particular drink. And if that's the only thing that I love doing currently in my life, then how can you make that happen? That little moment happen, and then maybe it slowly kind of expands later on as you get braver and braver about being like, "No, I actually don't wanna be a veterinarian, I wanna be an artist, and now I'm gonna do it." And it's scary, and I think also just knowing it is scary doing switching things up because you don't know what's gonna happen.
Thank you for not sugarcoating it. I love you. I love your whole perspective. Your brain thinks so different than me that I'm like, oh my God, you see things in a totally different way that I think is really going to help people.
Mm.
I really do. I've never thought of it that way. And I like the way that you break it down. Like, okay, you do know what you really want. Let's just take a beat to find it. And for now, just have a cup of coffee if that's go to the coffee house. You love going to the start small. I love that because it's doable. It's doable.
Yeah, right, exactly.
Hmm. Okay. But when she goes to the bathroom, she has these bubbles. Oh my God, I don't think I'll ever forget that. All right. Get back to you. Do the work of healing from traumatic, painful
Mm.
parts of your life. So this, I would think you would need some guidance on.
Oh, yeah. I mean, and I think that we do not realize. I mean, having been in different relationships with people who, I mean, myself included, we all need professional help. And I think we do not give ourselves enough credit to realize, you know what, that was actually a really hard part of my childhood that I did not actually realize. And it doesn't even have to be like super far on the extreme. It can just be, doesn't have to be super extreme, but I don't think we realize how many things from our past hold us back in the future because we have been shaped by those things. And I think it's like, well, why does it have to be like a hard thing that gets us into like a therapist chair or something? Or maybe you only have to go talk to a therapist one time because you're like, you know what? Jimmy Bob in second grade made fun of me. And ever since then, I've been too scared to do this. And then you just talk it out with somebody. And then you're like, okay, I'm free from that. But
I love that.
I think we think that we just have to push on through. A lot of times, the change in perspective comes from actually sitting still and being reflective and being again kind of honest, and that takes time to marinate in that. And I mean, I've been with people where it's like our relationship would have been totally different if that person had dealt with growing up in a really bad household where you're like, okay, there's some traumatic things happening here and you never got help for that, and it's kind of showing in this relationship. Like,
Yeah.
let's get some help from that so you can be a healthier person.
Yeah. And I love the fact that you said, because I have so many people that say that to me. Well, I had a good childhood. I shouldn't, they almost are feeling guilty that something held them back. Like you said, like Billy
Mm.
Bob did this and but we all have little things. And like you said, I'm not saying you have to go 10 years.
No, yeah, exactly.
But
Yeah.
it's so true because the things that hold us back or the stories we tell ourselves, it doesn't have to come from severe abuse. Like people are like, this is ridiculous. No, it's not.
I've been reading this book called Recovering from Losses in Life, and it's a book on grief. It's written by a trauma/grief counselor. And in the very beginning, he talks about like we think of loss as someone dying. And he goes, loss can be the closing of your favorite coffee shop. The loss could be the loss of a pet. He runs down a whole list of things that you're like, that's true. That is a
Oh,
loss. And I'm like, think about that if you processed. So I did all of the exercises where like I wrote down these things that like I didn't get married to Mark when I was in after college, like my first real crush. And it's like, I guess that is a loss, or like that type of relation, like he would have been awesome to be married to, and it is kind of a loss. So I put him down on my list, and then I put down a whole bunch of other things, and I'm like, and had a good cry over these losses. And so even coming up with things like that, where you can be honest with yourself about like, I'm actually hurting over a bunch of losses that I never actually thought were losses, but truly are losses. And it doesn't have to be a year-long grief fest. It could literally be like, man, I am so sad that my favorite place for a cocktail closed down during the pandemic. I'm still sad about that. And it's okay to be like, you know what? I really am sad about that. So now I have another place that I like to go to on special occasions. But like, that was a loss. Acknowledge it and then kind of move on. You have room to move on and try something new. And that's part of the process of like, you could be in a job where you're like, I'm excited and happy that I get paid this much, but I'm really sad that I didn't take that other job because this one had more money, but I really think the other one would have made me happier. That is a loss. Process it and then figure out how you can change things up.
brilliant. I love that because I didn't think of it in anything other than you lost someone, they passed away, whether it was an animal or human. And you're right. I do have a bunch of things that were lost. What's the name of that book?
That one's called Recovering from Losses in Life
I love that.
by H. Norman Wright.
Brilliant. All right. This is a big one with me. Understand your strengths and weaknesses and put yourself
Mm.
in the context that you're ideally suited for. So we're going to take this from a gentleman. Where is it? Because it's right on point with this. Dear Anna, I know you have a point, but the way I was raised, he's 37,
Mm.
was the things he wasn't good at, he better get good at.
Yep.
And he doesn't know how to break that habit. Now, keep in mind, he's really, really phenomenal engineer, but he still
Mm.
puts himself down every day for all the other things he's not good at because he's
Mm.
just really good at being an engineer. But it's too many years of programming.
Mm. Okay, well, this is where having an outside person comes into play, and literally, this is what I help people with. And I love helping people figure out like what their strengths are, and a lot of it is helping someone see like, okay, yes, this is some of your learned skill set, or hey, your strengths and the way you are wired has helped contribute to what you currently know. But like, okay, he is an engineer. So let's pretend one of his because there's like a problem solving strength called restorative. And so let's pretend he happened to have that high, or maybe it's another strength that lends to like solving problems. You can start to think of yourself as a problem versus, oh, I'm really good at solving problems. A lot of times, people who are good at solving problems start looking inward at themselves and they think they're a problem to solve. And it's like, no, 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 no. No, we're not solving your weaknesses. Yes, we all have problems that we need to like work on, but it doesn't need to be in a negative way. It could be like, because problem solve. Like, we're not people who are broken. We're really good at things. We just have to rewire our brains to be like, I'm very good at solving problems, and these are the contexts in which they have problems that I love to help solve. But you don't have to solve yourself, as you're not a problem to solve. You need to recognize, oh, my strength is that I like to solve problems, and what's the room that I can put
I
myself
gotcha.
into. And I think, I mean, I kind of grew up thinking that I wasn't good at anything. Like,
Oh,
the thing that I'm really good at is talking to people and encouraging them. Like, literally, that's what I'm good at. So if I had gotten graded on my ability to talk to my friends in the hallway during high school between classes, I would have gotten a straight A. Instead, my future didn't look very bright because my high school, my all my report cards were like, I had a couple A's in like English and reading, but like science and math, I had like C's, D's, and an F. So it didn't look like I was going to be a success, but I was getting graded on the things that I wasn't good at, right? And so it took me a really long time into my 40s to be like, oh, I could get paid to help change people's perspective about themselves, and then they can go off and do exactly what they're good at with just a few shifts in their thinking where they're like, oh, yeah, I am really good at that. And it's not lying. I'm not patting them on the back like, oh my gosh, Sandy, you're amazing. It's not shallow. It's like, this is why you have these strengths and this is what you're really
yeah.
good at. So just because your guy there is 37 and he's an engineer, if he understood what made him really good as an engineer, or maybe the parts that he actually was better at in engineering, now he can really lean into that and maybe drop some of the things that he's like, oh, I actually do not like this part of my job. Well, there's probably a reason why you don't like that part of your job.
Did you hear that, Billy Bob? You got that? That's good advice. Well, you should call Anna. All right, let's end on this. I know we've gone over, but I think you're such a gift. At the end of the day, you know what really matters.
Mm.
Let's get back to what you said in the middle of it, which was just spending time with yourself. Does that where, like, I know for me, when I go out and take walks in the woods or hikes or with my dog, I have all these epiphanies about myself, good, bad, and ugly.
Mm.
That's, that's just, I'm like, oh, okay. That's what I was really thinking. What are some different ways that they can really check in with themselves?
Well, and I think with that last point, like at the end of the day, know what really matters. I think ultimately, like having it talking about jobs or like activities that we want to do, that's easy, right? Because it's like, yeah, we do have, I want to have a job that I like going to. But I think at the end of the day, what really matters is how are you treating the people in your immediate life? So if you are partnered up, or you have children, or you have friends, or you have family, like how are you interacting with them, and how are you loving them? Because life, I almost lost my dad this year. He was in the ICU and long-term acute care for 4 months this year, and that was the closest I've ever gotten to like losing one of my parents. And it was eye-opening to be like, one day I said I was talking to him, the next day I was unable to talk to him for 4 months because he was out of it, right? And it's like, oh my word, life is short. So at the end of the day, when you're in that situation, what matters is, okay, am I taking care of my mom right now? How am I showing up for my dad? And everything else does matter. My hopes and dreams do matter, but whether I get my hopes and dreams does not matter, and as much as, did I talk really nicely to my spouse today? Did I treat these people in my life really well?
Got it.
Because
Now I got it.
when I die, people are going to come to my funeral, and I hope they're sad. I hope they're crying because they're like, man, I'm going to miss getting a birthday card from her or whatever, you know?
Okay, that was totally different than what I was thinking, but I got it now. At the end of the day, know what really matters to you. And you're right. Spending time with your dad was way more important, or how you spoke to your dad, than what else was going on. Okay.
And I do think if you have never been in a position where you get to treat yourself as someone who matters, that also matters. That is really important. So if you have always been, let's pretend we'll put the label of people pleaser, and you need to learn how to put boundaries on yourself, then that also really matters. Learning how to become healthy versions of ourselves when we've never had that really matters, because then that does mean you get to show up in a way that matters for the people who matter to you.
And there are a lot of people pleasers, I can tell you,
Mm.
in my audience, or recovery people pleasers
Yeah,
in the
yeah.
process, because they write me all about it. And it's not as easy as you think to let go of that. It's like you have to pause before you go, yes. I have stickers, by the way, all over
Mhm.
that say, just say no, 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 no. And I did it for like a month to remind myself, you can say no. You can say no. And
I think that is where, like, recovering from certain traumatic things, like, I know someone who grew up in a household where one of the parents was an alcoholic. This person also had an abusive sibling. And it's like that person is now a people pleaser because that is how that person gets to control the situations. So, like, okay, that's where therapy comes into play. And that's where learning to say no becomes a healthy thing. You can still do things and say yes, but you need to know, why am I saying yes? Because I'm scared of this person withholding love from me? Because if that's the
ooh,
answer, then that is not healthy at all.
yeah, yeah. Well, that's a big note to end on, Anna, but we we went way over time, but I really, really love you. I think you're such a blessing. I think
Hmm.
that works with you is going to be so blessed. And I love you. You can't help but just be so authentic, and like you're down and dirty and raw. And I love everything about you. So before we go, can you
Hmm.
tell my, hey, I got something to say, people, women around the world and men that support us, how they can find you, reach you, work with you?
Yeah, go to Anna Y. Nelson, ANNAYNELSON.com. And I have a contact page. You can put your little name on there and then click a button that would schedule a free 30-minute conversation. So if there's any part of your life that you're like, I really want this changed, or I want to work on some long-term goals, or try to figure out what I'm really good at so I can change my life, I love it. I excel at it, and I do I'm very good at it. So just come find me there. You can follow me on Instagram or LinkedIn, but just know I barely post there. And both of those handles are at Anna Y. Nelson.
Cool beads. All right, my hey, I got something to say. I love you guys. I really appreciate all your support. I can feel the love coming back at me. And Ann and I would really appreciate you rating, liking it, and sharing it with other individuals. It means the world to us. And you know what I'm going to say. Until next time, toodles. Bye, Anna.
Bye.